Hi guys. So since Mark gave me a rash of shit on last night's podcast recording, which should be posted very soon, about not posting any video content lately, I decided I would do some quick hit videos from my phone as I'm driving in vertical mode just to piss people off. Hopefully I'll do a couple of these a week and we'll talk about a couple different topics as I'm driving and sniffling. I got an allergy thing happening. I think I've talked about this on the show. I'm allergic to cats. Never had a cat my whole life. We have a cat now, about a year, and I take allergy pills like every day. I keep toilet paper in my car to blow my nose. Crazy. Man, last week I was blowing my nose with Kleenex from work, and like the sides of my nose just got completely destroyed. Why do companies buy the worst quality hygiene paper possible, tissue paper, whether it be Kleenex or toilet paper? The toilet paper at work, it is like wiping with sandpaper. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so we're going to talk about today, and hopefully the sound isn't terrible. If it is, next time I'll put headphones or something on. How to avoid hobby burnout. Hobby burnout is something that plagues, well, everyone who does any hobby. You're doing something for so long, and eventually it's not fun anymore. And I went through this probably about 3 years ago. I was doing orc, right? I mean, how do you not love going through orcs? And it got to the point where I was just sick of it. Couldn't do it anymore, didn't want to do it anymore. I stopped painting for about 2 weeks, actually, after that happened, because I was so sick and tired of painting orcs. And I found, for me, the formula that creates hobby burnout is you start painting armies or you start painting models to do a large number. I have to do this entire squad. I have to do this entire army. I have to do this entire chapter. Fuck, whoever does that. Whoever has the patience to do an entire chapter, please message me and let me know how you got through that, because there's no way I could ever accomplish that. So I found that if I do batch painting, or if I do multiple, like 15 to 20 of the same model, if I do batch painting, it's usually the worst with batch painting. If I do batch painting, that's where it's the worst. And batch painting is where you have a number of models, you have an entire box, which is maybe 5 to 10, and you do them all identically. And so what you do is you take all the models and you build all the models, and then you primer all the models, and that's a stop. I don't know why people are not stopping. And you primer all the models, and then you do all of the flesh for all of the models, and then you do all of the brown straps for all of the models, and then you do all of the metal. It's awful. It's the worst way to paint. And I know there are a lot of people out there that batch paint because they have an army that they're doing, or that they have a project that they're working on, and it's usually when you have time constraints where you have to have it done within X amount of time, and you have to have a set number of models done, whether it be for a competition or because there's a brand new army out and you want this entire army done so you can field them on the table and play. From a hobby standpoint, that is the worst way to work, because what happens is it becomes a job and it becomes an assembly line, and I hate that. To me, that's how you get burnout, because you're no longer enjoying the pieces of each model that make each model special. You're now just trucking along. And unfortunately, for Space Marines, and I would probably say for Tyranids, this is a big problem, because you're dealing with, let's admit it, you're dealing with very few details, and you're dealing more with kind of large function. You know, Space Marines, it's all a lot of just regular armor. You know, it's just armor plate after armor plate. Very little detail work in there. That's where, but with those models, that's where you get to enjoy things like weathering, battle damage. You get some really fun detail out of that. But if you're not at that skill point yet, then it's, you know, base, wash, layer, highlight, base, wash, layer, highlight. And you're not dealing with the fun details. You know, for orcs, there's so much variety in each orc. And just little tiny details. Like on the, great example, mecha knobs. It looks like it would just be kind of plain, right? But then when you look at each model and you realize how much varying degree of detail there is, it's a lot more fun. So for me, and I found recently with my top secret super project, that it's more fun for me to paint each model individually, entirely, and then move on to the next one. Now, the where that differs is, if you're dealing with a project where you are dealing with unique models every time, then you can even do the base for that. But if you are dealing with, if you're dealing with like an army where all the bases are the same, then you can't do that. Then you can't. Then you have to do them all and then do all of the bases at once, because you really need your bases to be uniform. You really need all of your bases to be in the same, and you have to batch paint bases. But I mean, honestly, painting a base is not all that hard unless you're going with some super crazy elaborate base. Batch painting bases I'm totally okay with. But for me, the way that I avoid hobby burnout and hobby fatigue is that I will paint an entire model start to finish. Or, as I've done in the past, you know, when I got done with my Primaris Marines for Armies on Parade, which I rolled in gold, I broke the mold. And after 3 months of painting Space Marines over and over and over again, I needed a palette cleanser. I needed something new. Now, for me, I've done this quite a few times, and I've made the mistake of buying something new just to buy something new and paint it. And not fun. You know, when I did the Dark Eldar for my for the painting contest that never was, it was hard. Because I didn't enjoy the painting of those models just because they were tiny fiddly bits, not fun for me. Yeah, not what I would consider to be exciting times. So if you know a kind of model that you like to do, but it's one that you haven't done before, preferably one maybe even from a different system. Like if you're a 40K guy, then you paint you know, an Age of Sigmar box. If you're an Age of Sigmar guy, then you paint a 40K box. If you know, to me that's okay, there's I don't know if I'm supposed to go here. I'm gonna go. So break it up. And after I got done with my Primaris Marines, I painted a box of Blood Bowl orcs, because I love orcs. I love orcs, but I needed slightly different, and I didn't want just the same regular usual. And so Blood Bowl orcs offered enough variety in me so that it was new and exciting to paint, but enough familiarity with me that I didn't have to sit there and struggle with a new technique. As a palette cleanser, you want something kind of in that familiarity. Now, if you've been doing the same things over and over again and you really want to break out, then by all means, go fucking crazy. Get yourself, you know, go buy Saint Celestine. Go buy, you know, Adeptus Mechanicus. Get something entirely new and different. But don't get upset if it's not perfect. Don't get upset if it's not Golden Demon quality the first time you paint it. Remember, this is a new box of models that you're painting just to get your mind cleaned out, you know? Also, something too, and I've done this a couple of times, when you get done painting, if you need a palette cleanser, do something else entirely. A couple of times now, I have totally redone my entire paint area. Even so much as moving it to a different room, because I have the room to do that. I was kind of fortunate in that. But don't be afraid to try something else out, you know? Maybe what you need to do is wipe your work surface completely away, start over fresh that way. Reorganize your paints. Put your paints from pots into droppers. Do something different that totally changes your mindset on how you're painting. And don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to, honestly, to fail, because it's a palette cleanser. It's a way for you to break the mindset and be ready for something else. Also, as I have found with palette cleansers, sometimes you palette cleanse and you find, holy shit, this is really awesome, I'm gonna do more of this. And that's exactly how I fell in love with Nurgle models, man. I'm telling you. I was like, you know what? I've had enough orcs for, it was Adeptus Mechanicus. I had just got done with a big Adeptus Mechanicus paint job, and I decided, no, you know what? I'm going to paint something entirely different, and I painted some Nurgle models, and I wound up doing green stuff, which was amazing because I'd never done green stuff before. Green stuff is a modeling putty, for those of you that don't know. And it was great, and I fell in love with Nurgle stuff, but then I also fell in the trap with Nurgle stuff, which is, hey, it's really easy to paint these, and you don't have to be so neat about it, because you can be sloppy, because then you can just cover it up with typhus, corrosion, and rust. Yeah, that's a pitfall that you can very easily fall into with Nurgle. So, look, avoiding hobby fatigue, 1, change your mindset. 2, stop batch painting. Paint an entire model, even if it's just one out of an entire box. Do it start to finish, and try something also different with it. Like, hey, you know, this model I'm going to oil wash. You know, fine. And even if it's just a little detail like that, that you can kind of hide that one guy in a whole army. And 3, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to try something new and completely fail at it. You know, hobby fatigue it's a killer, man. It wrecks a lot of people. I see a lot of comments on it. I see a lot of people talking about it. As this guy goes really fast by me. You can break that, and you may find something new that you love. So, yeah, give that a shot. If you got comments, questions, please leave them below. Let me know. And I would tell you to subscribe, but I do like one video every like 4 months. So if you want to subscribe, I probably won't be spamming you, but please do, and then we can tell Mark to shut up because I made a new video. Have fun, folks.